When I get nervous, say something relatable. I'm hella relatable. That's hella legit and I really...
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 20 of On the Flank. I'm one of your hosts, John George, alongside Joe Kirkpatrick. Say hello, Joe.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to, what's the big 2-0, right? And I think our first night show.
Yeah, the big 2-0, and it's our first night show. I am in sunny Los Angeles, California. It's not sunny right now. The sun is setting. So we've got a bit of a time difference here now, Joe, but we're still going to make it work, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. We gotta give the people what they want. We gotta give Nate Nancer what he wants. A big follower of the cast. Yeah, a lot of weird stuff happened this past week. And I was getting him in bits and pieces since I was moving. Of course, it's a lot of work. And I think it's even weirder to get this stuff in bits and pieces because I'm just like, what is going on? No clue what was going on. If you don't know what we're talking about with Ellie in Second Wind, which we will get into later in the show. But a pretty crazy week. We'll start out with some events though, Joe. It is Contenders playoff time for season 3, all around in every region. In fact, while we are recording this, currently Atlanta Academy is playing XL2 Academy in the semifinals of the NA Contenders. Just a couple hours ago, Giganti won European Contenders, so congratulations to them. And then I believe we have some Korean Contenders action coming up pretty soon as well. We got tons of Contenders action. What do you think? What do you think so far? I know you're a big Philly Fusion guy. You root for Fusion Academy too. Fusion University, my bad.
Yeah, no, it's been good. Like I said, that series in the semifinals is coming up next. But yeah, talking about these EU finals, I was watching a little bit of those earlier. Really cool to watch. Team Giganti coming up, especially they won like 4-2, I think. So that must have been map 6 when they were playing in Hollywood. Really excellent play there, completing it and then a full hold to end up that series. But especially with people like Zappis and Zupe and also Davin sitting on that team, we've seen him lots of other things. They're still really good players. Even though they've been sort of taken out of the tier 1, the OWL limelight. But they're still definitely really deserving of some of the success they're having, and arguably more.
Yeah, and that's they beat the Angry Titans. This is their Angry Titans' second contender season in a row, only getting second, but still pretty impressive for them to be in that championship twice in a row. Right now, Atlanta it's looking like we might get that Atlanta Academy versus Fusion University rematch. I was telling Joe before this, as a busy man, I've barely been able to tune in, but one of the matches recently that I tuned into is Fusion University versus Atlanta Academy, who were the only 2 undefeated teams left in Group A. But that was a disappointment of a game for Atlanta, so that wasn't too fun to watch. But we might get the rematch in the finals. Do you see that? Do you see Fusion University having any chance of not completing the three-peat here, Joe?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we're looking at again having to take it through Second Wind, and maybe a hot Atlanta team, maybe. I forget who they're playing already. Who's Atlanta playing right now?
XL2.
XL2, yeah. Yeah, and that's another team that's changed relatively significantly here going into this season 3 now? I guess this is for Contenders. Yep. But yeah, no, it's hard to say. That I think they're certainly expected to win tonight, and then this finals match, which is soonish. I don't know when. But I imagine they get a break probably between now and whenever it is. But yeah, that'll be really cool to watch. At some point, as much as I hate to say it, that definitely Fusion has to lose. I mean, you can't keep going through that forever. So I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see if it happens. The finals are the 13th. The 13th.
Oh, so not very much. Not very long from now.
Not very much rest. At 7 p.m. Eastern time. So yeah, that should be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Right after this podcast, I'll probably tune into that for a little bit too. What else? Korean contenders coming up. I mean, that's the other big one. Runaway has been with their completely new roster. Apparently, that doesn't matter. They have yet to lose yet this season. The only team who has yet to lose. They 3-0'd Kongdu Panthera in the quarterfinals. They now face WGS, who barely squeaked by GC Busan in the quarterfinals. Do you see another runaway repeat, Joe?
I think that's even, I just said it's going to be cool to watch Fusion, but I think that's even going to be a really a more interesting now, but run to watch. Whether you watch it live or not, because it is Korea time. But to see that team that's just completely different roster than even just last season of contenders. But then again, talking about their whole region has been pretty well, not decimated, but pretty well shaken up this last wave of signings here for Owl Season 2. But yeah, it's definitely, that's what they're looking for to maintain that team's consistency for sure, even with the name of the program and the org and that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, very impressive. I did not expect Runaway to just come out like this. All of a sudden, they just have the best roster once again. I'm super interested. A huge Kaiser fan over here. And if you didn't know by now, Kaiser's finally back in the limelight on Stormquake, and Stormquake plays in the other game against Element Mystic. So I'm pretty interested in that matchup. And seeing if Kaiser can make a big splash on the scene again, because I'm a huge fan of his tank play. But yeah, Korean Contenders is my favorite. I'm definitely going to be tuning into that. And now that I'm in Pacific time, it's a lot less hard to do that. I am very excited about that. Yeah, used to be at like 4 a.m. Now it won't be as bad, I guess. 2 a.m. Still pretty bad. But I'll take it. So those are the events. Contenders, bunch of contender stuff. It's exciting because it's just getting me more and more hype for the real thing, for Overwatch League itself. First thing in the news, Joe Meister, Philly Fusion, man, didn't play at all last season. Got dropped this season, and now he's going to be coaching for Harrisburg University. So this has got to be a first, right, Joe? Like a pro player going to not another pro team, not a contenders team, but a university.
Yeah, that's part of the reason I added that to our list of stuff to talk about today. It's not again, not just because I like to follow the former Fusion players, but that specifically to watch this transition. Going to coach the Harrisburg University Storm, which is what their team is, so that's kind of cool. They finished 72nd in the TESPA preseason, which is the for those of you who are not familiar, the collegiate. It's the main collegiate Blizzard Games esports sponsoring body. That's a way to put it. But they partner really closely with Blizzard. So out of just under 500 teams, finished 72nd. It's a 4K plus team all the way around there at Harrisburg University. But that's super cool. That I was impressed that was something that. On the one hand, something that they were sort of able to convince him to do. Surely coming out of OWL, your primary goal, you want to coach some kind of contenders team, T3 team, something like that. But lots of these higher level collegiate teams, even oftentimes, find success in open division and stuff too. I mean, there's definitely some really high level competition going on in these teams.
Yeah, as two Butler University sportsmen, I think we're super happy to see signings like this. I'm just mad Joe Meister didn't go to Butler, you know? Upset we couldn't get his coaching talents.
Yeah, we only finished like 350 places below them. It's fine.
It's basically just as close, you know?
Yeah.
It is 72. But yeah, super excited. Hopefully, college esports takes off more and more here. We might be a little biased, but I love regular college sports, so college esports hopefully as good. Now we get into some drama, Joe. Mykl. You know us. We don't like we don't like the Mykl leaks too much, you know. And he's back to leaking this time. He's not leaking rosters. He's leaking full scrims, scrim VODs. I believe so. I believe how this happened is someone on either, I believe, Atlanta.
Yeah, it was
I can't remember
Gator.
exactly who. Gator uploaded it to his YouTube channel. He meant to do it private or unlisted, but he made it public. Mykl took this opportunity, downloaded the video, and re-uploaded it to his own channel. And Joe, the big deal here is when he does this, he's no longer working on it. He's no longer working for himself. He is an official journalist. He's working for a website now. And that website, they don't like too much that Mykl has decided to do this. And he ended up getting let go a couple days later after this. But there's a big community outcry. Like, nobody... I didn't see anyone comment like, thanks, Mykl. I really enjoyed watching it. Everyone was like...
Dude, you shouldn't have done that.
Everyone was like, I don't even want this.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because a couple days later, I was preparing for this show earlier today, and I discovered on his Twitter account, a couple days later, he posted an apology video, which was like, 8 minutes of basically saying, I guess you guys didn't like that I did that, but it was going to happen anyway, and I guess I probably shouldn't have done it, but I just won't leak anything now. It's what he said. I think the video title is something to the effect of, why I did it and why I'm done, or something. So, I don't know. It
seems to be the title of a lot of videos he puts out, basically. That's the gist of it. Why I did it and why I'll never do it again. And then he does it again.
The other notable thing that happened, though, is that Kangarna's Contenders team left the org, so that they're phase 2 now again instead of Kangarna. As a response to that.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. It's insane to just see like everyone, like I didn't expect to just see a collective like just outroar, just like I don't. It's like no one found it useful. I was like, why? I don't want this, and please don't do this to the players. Yeah, I can't imagine like if someone did that in like professional sports, it'd be like recording practice and releasing it. Everyone would probably have the same response. Like no one cares. Yeah, this was just it's funny to me. That was funny to me. And then it was even more funny that like after Mykl got like hired by the website, he just got let go because of this. Like he just never learns.
You hate to see it.
You do hate to see it. He just sees a piece of content and he's like, I need to jump on this opportunity, no matter what it is. All right, now we're going to get into Ellie. We're going to get into good old Ellie. If you don't know what happened, second wind. I don't think this was before Contenders started. I think it was like at the beginning, the Contenders Season 3. They picked up this player named Ellie, and there's a lot of mystery behind who she was, and there are no pictures of her. No one knew that if she even existed. And then because of it, there was a lot of harassment and backlash onto Ellie, and then onto some other female players in the player base in general. And we know female players in video games have not mixed well so far, unfortunately, as far as some unfortunate other players' reactions to them, which is just sad. It's so sad that women can't get on a game and play without finding somebody who has something to say about their gender. Now all of a sudden, Ellie comes in, and it turns out that Ellie isn't Ellie, and Ellie isn't even a girl. It is a guy. His name's Punisher, right?
Yeah, I get the impression he's some, a streamer or something.
Yeah, he's definitely known because I don't personally know. I'd never heard of Punisher, but everyone seemed like they knew who he was. Punisher, a guy came out, basically said that this was a social experiment.
Which is like the worst excuse ever. I just want to put that out there.
It is always the worst excuse. Like, there was this phase on like Facebook and YouTube where like these prank channels would like try to make their pranks serious by calling them social experiments. When in reality they were just terrible pranks that actually had no social impact.
It's what you call it when you don't know what a social experiment is.
Exactly. And if he was actually putting on a social experiment, I think almost everyone agrees that I have no clue what he found with that experiment or what his results were. That the community does not enjoy female players. Like, we already knew that. Was there a point of doing this besides just making them hate on female players even more? Because that's all that really happened there. Anything to say about this insane situation? I mean, there's more to the story. There's more with like Blizzard and how they're dealing with, and how Second Wind didn't even know that Punisher was doing this, and it's crazy, right, Joe? Like, I don't think you ever expected this to happen, right?
Yeah, no, it's one of those things that it's almost hard to speak on, not being a woman myself, but just the whatever point that Punisher may or may not have been trying to make, absolutely, I think got lost, in the actual carrying out of it. I think, I like to bring up Jane, but Jane suggested that originally, back when we didn't know as many details, that he thought maybe it had been an attempt by Second Wind to try to sort of cover for, I don't know the name of the other player, but one of the other players on the team who had recently been Haku, I think, who had made some less than tasteful sexist type remarks recently.
Yeah.
As we talk about, hey, he can even play with a female teammate, that's something. But it's just the whole thing is a mess. It's not something you want to see for Second Wind, again, particularly if they didn't know anything about it originally. That's you got to start asking some hard questions, I think, there in the org leadership. But yeah, I don't know. It's this is certainly not. Certainly didn't do anything at all really good for the community, unfortunately.
Yeah, really didn't do anything good whatsoever. And it's looking like Blizzard's not going to punish Second Wind in any way, which I thought. My first reaction was like, Second Wind needs to the Second Wind has one of the best records in Contender Season 3. And is doing super well, so I was like, wow, that could ruin their playoff push if they get punished for this. But Blizzard's probably doing the right thing. Second Wind didn't actually know anything about it, and I don't know how much of it is. I mean, it's kind of cheating, right? Like, one of your players isn't who they actually are, but Second Wind didn't know about it, and clearly it's taking Blizzard a little longer than expected to investigate that if they're going to do anything about it. Yeah, this is a crazy situation. I agree with you. Nothing good came out of his social experiment. There's no point in doing it. All it did was cause a ruckus. And it was weird and annoying and took esports back a couple years because of it. Very weird. Bastet short story. We got some more Overwatch lore from Mr. Mykl himself, and this time it's not a comic book. It's a short story, right, Joe? A nice short story. And I gotta tell you, a short story that's one of my favorite mediums. I'm a sucker for short stories.
Yeah. It's certainly the most easy to produce too, which means for all these people complaining about we don't have any lore. Well, this is the kind of content you want Mykl to be putting out.
Yeah, you summarized it the point for me a little bit, but I haven't been able to actually read it yet. Joe, so you do want to talk about it?
Yeah. So, Basta, this is another bit of lore with Ana in particularly. We have Ana Amari in Cairo, I think is where she is. Yeah, she's in Cairo, and is helping out with her security job there, and ran into a conflict between Jack Morrison and Gabriel Reyes, who obviously is Soldier and Reaper, and so is nursing Soldier back to health in order to get him out there and back chasing after Reaper and all of his cronies. And so they have conversations, and he rests, and there's backstory involved and stuff. But the two main things that come out of this, then there's a scene again while Ana and Soldier are interacting here while Soldier's recovering, and he had pulled out an old photograph of him and let's see, I'll pull this out. Him and, quote, reading from the thing, a dark-haired man dressed in a casual black button-up shirt. Jack's arm was around his shoulder. Vincent is his name. It turns out that indeed that they must have had, Soldier goes on to explain, a relationship in the past that, boom, big bombshell. Soldier 76 definitely is gay. According to the story, gay or bi, but Mykl actually tweeted a couple hours later, presumably he was pressed by fans that, yes, confirming that Soldier and Vincent are both gay. But so that's one thing. That's the big bombshell. But also story-wise, this short story then at the end is when Ana picks up a new personality, or a new persona, I guess, not a personality, but a new persona of Bastet, leaving the Necropolis, which I assume is based on the map, the 3v3 map or whatever, Necropolis, wearing this new Bastet skin based on ancient Egyptian sort of mythology, with one of the Egyptian goddesses. But so it's a new persona for Ana and a new Ana skin, and now is the basis of this event that's going on right now.
Yeah, super cool concept from what I could tell. Of course, I haven't read it yet, but that's cool. I don't think anyone expected Soldier 76 to be gay. They've been talking about gay characters since the game came out, and they were always sort of they were kind of hidden about it. They weren't out there about it, and then Tracer got revealed to be gay, and now Soldier.
And it's funny because I actually personally haven't gone back to look at it, but apparently in one of the old comics, and I think it is actually the same one in which we learned that Tracer is gay, and I forget the name. It's the Christmas themed comic that came out. That apparently also we do see Soldier holding this same photo, like way back a year and a half ago or whatever, but nobody had thought anything of it until this Bastet short story, which is interesting. but that we actually could have known that. We could have speculated, so long ago.
Wow. Tracer being gay was a red herring. It wasn't the real story. It wasn't the real reveal.
Something like that.
That's super cool.
It was Reflections. That's the comic.
Okay, yeah, that was a great comic too. But yeah, that's cool. It lets you know that like Mykl Chu and the Overwatch lore team they really have had a story painted out this whole time about everyone's personality. And it's cool because as a person who has taken a couple of film classes and knows how to build has learned how to build a character, it seems like they have done like what they do in screenwriting for each of their Overwatch characters, and like just filled out their entire backstory before releasing them, and then not telling us most of the backstory, which is a screenwriting thing. You like, if you're thinking about a movie, there's tons of things about like Luke Skywalker, for example, that these writers know that the audience is never going to know. They are just trying to get to know their character as well as they can, which is what Blizzard is doing, and one of the reasons why I fell in love with this game in the first place. More content like this, please, Mykl Chu. New patch 1.3.2.
Or 1.32 even.
1.2. Did I say 1.32?
Yeah.
32.
1.3.2 was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. That was live back then.
That was before I played. By quite a lot. But no.
Yeah, Patchman Joe, you want to run us through this patch? I know my favorite things on here, which is expansion team skins. What else do we got?
Yeah, we actually got several different patches here in a span of a few days. I guess as they ran into some bugs and stuff. But yeah, the sum total of these patches bringing us up to 1.32 points. 0.1 is the official number here, but yeah, lots of different bug fixes, which is fine. Bug fixes are good. Obviously, the biggest change here, brings in the Ana's Bastet challenge all the way through January 21st. So that's a week from Monday, assuming you're listening to this show, recently after it's been dropped. Short version of that, it's very much like the Nano Cola challenge. Before that, it's similar to the Pink Mercy event that happened. But that you can, if you get 9 wins between now and next Monday, in any mode, quick play, competitive, any arcade mode, 9 wins will get you the best at Ana skin, which is cool. It's an epic skin. 6 wins will give you an Ana victory pose, which is her sort of crouch with her sniper rifle. And 3 games will get you the best at player icon. And they're also doing Twitch drops. Does it say how many streamers? There's lots of streamers who are streaming during this time period with drops enabled. They've got 5 sprays from this Bastet short story and from this new lore that we got that you can win from watching Twitch streams up to 6 hours. Again, between now and January 21st. And also, if you buy $20 or more in the specifically of Overwatch products in the Blizzard Gear store, you get a free Ana Funko Pop. So if that's something you're interested in, now's your chance to get a free Ana Funko Pop.
That's cool.
And yes, that's all those details there for the Bastet challenge. But also live in this patch, like you said, the OWL expansion team skins are in the game now. So if you were waiting on something official to let you know that you can start buying your new skins, now is the time. It's live server. You get home and away for it's 100 ALA tokens, which is like $5 still. And there's 20 teams now, so go have fun, spend all your money.
Oh yeah.
And then the other biggest thing, again, other than lots of bug fixes, but was that they made some spectating adjustments, which are super cool. There's a Reddit post going around somewhere. It's probably old by now, but you could probably dig it up, showing off some of these, or you can go mess around in a custom game of your own. But status effect icons now show on the hero's portraits. So, like if you're doing the third person free camera, and up in the top right and the top left are like the health bars and the ultimate status of all the heroes. Now it'll also give little icons if you're frozen or hacked or EMP'd, which I guess is also hacked, or Bionade or Flash or Slept. Anything like that will show up there in the top left and top right corner, so that's cool. They've added an over-the-shoulder spectator camera, which I haven't really investigated with, but I get the impression this is just a new way of sort of idly spectating a hero rather than first person or the back and above third person. So now there's an over-the-shoulder mode, so that's kind of cool. And you can also mute voice lines while spectating now. So that's if you're the Overwatch League and you really don't want any of Mickey's personality to show through in the game, you can mute the voice lines and prevent any of that from happening in Season 2.
Oh boy.
So
That's definitely happening, right?
so yeah, that's those are all the changes that are made on live. So not really any balance changes. This is sort of and I think that's reflected in the number of the PTR patch we're looking at. But yeah, that's the live patch that is again live right now.
Yeah. Super live. I'm finally settled here. I finally got Wi-Fi. I'm about to log into Overwatch tonight. Lots to do tonight, Joe. Lots to do. Along with the live patch, we got a PTR patch as well, Joe. This one has some hero balance stuff, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So that's the big one with this one, and there's some pretty big changes. It's only 3 heroes, but they're and a big change across the entire roster. But this is probably one of the biggest PTR patches in a while, I think, in the opinions of most. What do you got, Joe?
Definitely, yeah. This is sort of the what people are calling the anti-goats patch. Again, so live is 1.32.0. This PTR patch is 1.32.1. And so yeah, 4 major changes here. We'll start with Reaper. His lifesteal on the Reaping, which, in case you never read the flavor text on Reaper's passive, that is Reaper's passive when he gets lifesteal from the damage he deals. It's been increased from 30% to 50%. Again on PTR. So for every left click, he'll now heal himself for 50% of the damage that he does. D.Va's defense matrix, the cooldown has been increased from 1 second to 2 seconds. And you say to yourself, well, defense matrix doesn't have a cooldown. Well, that's because you say that because you're not a D.Va player. But no, it's after you stop right-clicking to stop using defense matrix currently on live, there's a 1 second delay before you can use it again. On the PTR now there's a 2 second delay before you can use it again. So that's the effective cooldown that we're talking about here. I think it's also 1 second or 2 seconds before it starts recharging. Right?
Yeah. I don't think that changed at all, but it's been like 2 seconds for a while now. It's been pretty long.
Yeah. Brig again has had a nerf. There's continuing the streak of every successive patch since her release. She's had some sort of nerf. The rally armor that she gives, I think it's only like 75 or 100 armor now. That is the maximum from her ultimate, but now it will only last for 30 seconds. The patch notes are sort of confusing. They just say the rally now has a maximum duration of 30 seconds, but that doesn't mean that Brig will be zooming around being glowy for 30 seconds. But no, the armor that she gives now will only last for 30 seconds, which is pretty huge, based on the structure of especially high-level Overwatch, with team fights and stuff. That means that the tanky 300 HP Zen with shields is only going to be around for 30 seconds at a time in between rallies. And so, that's really reducing some of the importance of that. Obviously not the effectiveness, but certainly the importance of that rally armor. But what does reduce the effectiveness of the rally armor is this fourth change that's on the PTR, which is just a general armor nerf. All the way across the board, every single hero that has armor, the damage reduction from armor has been reduced from -5 points to -3. And so if you don't know the mechanics of armor, basically what armor does as opposed to regular HP in Overwatch is that for every instance of damage that you receive, whether that's a Widow body shot or a headshot or whatever, or a tiny little pellet off of Tracer's guns, or a far rocket or whatever, or an Orisa pellet. It's a bunch of different ways, whether it's coming at you all at the same time or what. But every little instance of damage that there is on the live server currently, if you're dealing damage to armor as opposed to health, that damage will be reduced by either 5 points or by half, whichever is less. So it's essentially a maximum of 5 points of damage reduction for armor. But this has now been reduced to 3 points. So for example, if a little Diva pellet at point blank range used to do 20 damage, which was reduced to 15 with armor, now it's only been reduced to 18 or 17 with armor. So it means essentially that all of these instances of damage are now going to be more effective against armor. So this kind of tanky rally situation we've got, in theory, is going to become less effective now, because essentially every single damage dealing source in the game essentially has gotten a very, very, very small buff, and it depends on the hero exactly how large this buff is. But and there's people in Reddit who've done all the math that some heroes have actually gotten as much as like a 30 or 40% DPS increase, just purely based on these armor changes. So another side effect that this comes up with is that the tanks that don't have armor, particularly Zarya and Roadhog, actually get a little bit of a buff in this situation, because the tanks that do have armor, that's less of an advantage for them now. So that keeps tanks sort of on a more even playing field, although obviously it's not really quite the same. And this does even affect lots of support characters too. Obviously Brig with lots of her kit is focused around armor and armoring up her teammates, but also that if armor is now less resistant to damage, that means healing it is going to be worth a little bit less than it used to, and so your healers are going to who knows if they feel it or not, but mechanically there's going to be a difference there for the sort of the value that healing armor as opposed to healing HP will provide. So yeah, it's a big it seems like a big change, that it's going to affect lots of things in very, very small ways, but overall it's going to be a really significant change. And I think part of the reason that's part of the reason that lots of the pros are interested in getting into this PTR pretty quickly, because in fact, even yet tonight, I don't guess I don't need to send you to it, because it's probably most people who listen to this, it'll probably be over by then. But tonight you can go back and look. I know Jane and lots of professional Overwatch League players are going to be playing some PTR pugs tonight, and I think looking at lots of these changes, again with the Diva nerf, the armor nerf, the Brig nerf, and the Reaper buff, because Reaper is the only counter to Goat's lol, which is just all I have to say about that. But they're calling this is the anti-Goats patch, and whether that's true or not, it's definitely going to be shaking some things up. Jane had a really good sort of summary video. That's where I got lots of the things I'm talking about here. But that was one of the things he said, that it's going to definitely change up some of the tanks that we see. Whether or not Goats gets out of the way originally, because it's a very fine-tuned composition right now. But it's definitely more likely that there are things that exist now to counter it much more effectively than they could have before.
Oh yeah. This should be huge, but I'm so wary after all these patches that were like, this is it. This is when GOATS ends. This is the patch. But this should really be the patch, shouldn't it, Joe? This should be it. Like, I can't believe I didn't think of just like reducing how good armor was, because most of the heroes used in I mean, most tanks have armor, but the reason Brig's so good is because she provides armor, and armor is so powerful. And it helps everyone out so much. Rally's an insane ultimate because of it. And Blizzard, this was a smart one. The Overwatch team, this was a smart one. I didn't think about nerfing armor, and this is smart. I'm excited to see those pugs tonight. Hopefully in those pugs, a team plays GOATs to see if other comps can be effective against GOATs in this nerf.
Yeah, to see how structured it is. It's like, I was trying to think of, an owl team that would be good at GOATs, but I guess we don't really know because they never really played GOATs in season 1. But yeah,
it's very true. I guess it's a team with really good tanks.
Yeah.
Houston would be good. Houston's a good tank team. They don't like DPS too much, except Linkser.
Yeah, there you go. So have Houston play GOATs, and then have Boston, not Boston. I was gonna say have Boston run dive and just see what happens, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Maybe I'm excited. I'm excited for big changes. Everyone loves changes, and Jeff talked a lot on streams about some things and metas and how everyone's complained about every single meta, and he makes good points, but it's just annoying to see one meta at a time. But I kind of want to part of me wants to kind of put the blame on the players, honestly, because to me it feels like you could try some things, It feels like you could counter GOATs with something in the game, instead of just GOATs counters GOATs. Like, I just want the players to try harder to counter GOATs instead of playing GOATs against GOATs. But I guess that just wasn't efficient for them. They probably know better than I do.
Yeah. And I feel like I ought to clarify my comment about Reaper. Yes, clearly, Reaper and a Reinhardt in a 1v1, we know which one's gonna win, but that to be able to think that Reaper counters GOATs and that's all there is to it is a little bit misleading. Obviously Reaper's super vulnerable before he gets up into his close range, so I think it's going to be difficult to try to fit him in as easily as, unfortunately, some people in the ladder are going to think that he can here after this buff. Yeah. But because again, Pharah, for example, is really good still against lots of these tanks. In some ways better than a character like Reaper or Junkrat. But at any rate, it's certainly a buff to him. So if that's something you wanted, that's something you're going to get.
I'm excited for Hitscan to be a little bit better, because armor was like they were saying Soldier and all these heroes are just having trouble killing these tanks because armor's so strong. I'm excited for those little buffs. I'm excited, like you're saying, buffs to anyone that deals damage in the game is nice, because they need it. Season 2 preview. We want to jump in? You got any other news, Joe? I mean, I guess we could tell you, because while this was happening, Atlanta beat XL2 3-1, and they are officially going to the NA Contenders Finals.
There you go.
So congrats to them.
Congrats to them. And Fusion University is up 1-0 over
of course,
second
so we
win.
might get that rematch. Yeah.
Fun stuff all around.
Yeah, super fun. Season 2 preview is also super fun. Season 2 is coming up so soon, Joe. We're almost there. We're about a month away. That's crazy. If you haven't been listening, I think like the past 4 episodes now. Did we begin at episode like 16 or 17?
That sounds right. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. about 4 episodes now. We've been previewing season 2 teams, the expansion teams, the teams who are returning. We've been going through them all. We've been telling you guys, giving them an off-season grade. How are their off-season moves? How is their roster looking? Then we let you know who we think is going to be a standout player this season. We take a look at some anticipated matchups and storylines. And then we give you our prediction on how well they're going to do compared to Season 1, if they were in Season 1. Or we just tell you what place-ish we think they're going to get. This is all leading up. I was
going to say, and if you can't get enough of this kind of analysis, they are doing a series on OverwatchLeague.com going through all these teams individually as well. I know they've done New York and Florida and Shanghai and Boston. I don't know who all else, but
London, Houston, they've done a lot at this point.
Yeah, so they're getting right through the roster here, but
way quicker than us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So far, if you want to listen to your team's preview, so far we've done Shanghai, Vancouver, Dallas, Chengdu, Houston, London, Atlanta, Boston, and Philly. Those are all in previous episodes. Go check out the descriptions of the episodes to find the exact teams per episode. But today, we are adding 3 more teams to the gauntlet before we get back into our 2-team previews a week. Of course, we missed a week, so we had to add some more per week. But Joe, let's start out with maybe the should have been Season 1 champs, the New York Excelsior. This off season, New York Excelsior, basically they cut a player. They cut Janice, and then they added some players from their academy team, XL2, Nene, and Flower. Joe, what do you think of NYXL's off season? Even though it was not filled with too much.
Yeah, no, I think this was the fewest amount of roster moves that we've seen, I believe, from any of the Season 1 teams, which makes sense.
Same amount as London.
Same amount as London. Okay, well, yeah, so there you go. It makes sense, considering the success that we saw from both those teams. Obviously, London winning the Grand Finals playoffs, and New York finishing the season with the best record in the league, but there wasn't much that either team really needed. I think it's definitely fair to say. Dropping Janice, obviously, moved to Washington Justice now, and picking up Nene and the DPS player formerly known as Nanohana. But yeah, so I think I'm gonna say this also about San Francisco Shock. We're gonna touch on them later, but I think New York is another one of those teams that's going into Season 2 with an abundance of DPS players, which, if that's the way they want to roll, I think it definitely can be helpful to them. And I think, in fact, that New York is probably can be the most comfortable team doing that. I think going into Season 2 because of the reliability that they have in the rest of their players. Mykl Mono, amazing tank duo, and Animo Jonak Arc on support, really being able to pull up in there, and so in theory being able to enable whatever crazy DPS things end up happening with Sabielby and Flower and Libero and Nene and Pine all signed the roster. That's half the roster is DPS players for New York. But yeah, I mean, there's not much you had to change, I think, for this team for sure. But they, clearly saw things in the XL2 squad that they really liked, so they want to be able to enable those players. Yeah, so I mean, you can't really, improve over what's not to be improved on. So I mean, they certainly did what they needed to do. That's worth an A.
Yeah, hard not to give NYXL an A. Like they only could have made mistakes this offseason. That's there is the possibility that exists, that they did make a mistake this offseason, and we discover, that 3 roster moves was not enough for moving into Season 2. But
at least for right now, it's not looking that way.
Oh yeah, definitely not. I mean, this was, in my opinion, it could and maybe should have been. I mean, just some chokers here. I don't know what it is with NYXL and choking, but they did it, and I don't know how they improve on that, but they just got lackadaisical at the end of the season and didn't perform as well, which is unfortunate. But I can't not give them an A. This roster is still one of the most talented in the league. So they're not losing much with Janice. They're adding Nene, they're adding Flower. I mean, I can't not give them an A.
They just have to not play Minecraft during scrim blocks.
Exactly right. They would have got an A+ if they dropped Minecraft from all their computers officially.
They put out an official statement. Say,
yeah, we've officially uninstalled Minecraft from all NYXL computers.
friendship ended with Microsoft.
That would have been hilarious. We made a deal with Microsoft to make sure Minecraft goes nowhere near their computers. Okay, NYXL, I mean, this is such a talented roster. How can you pick one standout player, Joe? How could you do it? I'm going to have to make you right now. You have to.
Yeah, and I think for me, well, I don't know. There's two answers I could give here. Number one, I could say I really want to see, well, two answers I could give. One answer I will give. So the first answer is that I want to watch these XL2 players come up and try to step in and really find their place on this roster that obviously had so much success here in the past. But the answer that I'm going to say instead is I want to see how Season 1 MVP ends up with his Season 2. Obviously, Jonak really doing lots of big things for NYXL, especially on the Zenyatta, but in a meta that's it's definitely going to be a different look for Zenyatta play, I think, in Season 2, and just whether we run into similar sort of situations with him or not is really going to be interesting to watch going into February.
Oh yeah. It's hard not to pick Jonak. He's got all the eyes on him. I'm gonna go. Who should I go? I mean, I'll go with your first answer, and I'll put the spotlight on Flower, who came into the World Cup the year before Overwatch League started with a very big spotlight on him because he was the guy on that South Korea team that everybody knew. Everybody was like, this guy is crazy. He is the best player in Overwatch. Almost everyone was saying that, and you had a whole year where he was too young to play in Overwatch League, so he was playing contenders and on XL2, and people weren't as impressed with Flower on XL2. And I believe at points in the season 1 or season 2, he wasn't on the starting roster even. So interesting that they did choose to pull Flower up here on XL2, and I want to see him start, and I want to see him impress as much as he used to, because we know the talent's there. So I'm gonna say Flower does that. I'm gonna say Flower impresses. I'm gonna say Flower loves the spotlight. Maybe he just didn't like it in contenders.
It wasn't big enough for him.
Exactly. He didn't get a stage to show off how great he is. XL2 or XL, not XL2. NYXL, they have tons of rivalries. There were tons of great matchups to see them. But who are you most looking forward to seeing NYXL face off against this season?
Well, if you're a NA Contenders fan, I think it's going to be cool watching NYXL versus Dallas. Being able to watch again Nene and Flower versus Zachary in particular, back from their NA Contenders rivalry. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me personally, it's going to be their fusion match for sure. I mean, they're I want to say they're even on in history from playing them. I mean, Philly did beat him in the finals, but like in the regular season too, I think it was fairly close, the record. I know they beat them at least once in the regular season, but
I'll look it up while you talk.
yeah, I think. Well, I mean, that's basically all I'm going to say. That yeah, that's definitely one of the things I want to watch for is New York v Philly. And again, maybe New York v Dallas. There in that second thing, and they'll only play Dallas once in season 2, so it'll be cool to watch.
Yeah, that will be. Philly, New York, regular season, New York won 3-1 overall.
Oh, okay.
But
and then with the finals,
so that's
pretty close.
Tied, I believe. That's 3-3 overall since they played 2 matches in the playoffs.
There you go.
And almost every game, 4 of the 6 times they played, including playoffs, went to 5 maps. So close every time. I agree with you. That is a great matchup. Even if it wasn't a tie, they always went to like 5 basically, and Philly was a great matchup for NYXL. I'm gonna go NYXL London. I think everyone's putting them up as the 2 best teams going into this season. They're 2 of the best Korean rosters in the world. It's fantastic when you watch these 2 teams go head to head. I can't not pick NYXL versus London. It's the obvious answer, but I'm going with it. Compare it to season 1. NYXL, I mean, they have a high ceiling based off season 1. But I think we should compare their season 1 and season 2 results. Not their regular season results, though, their playoff results, because obviously regular season they were number 1, they were fantastic, they had the best record by a lot of games, but in the playoffs they fell short. So I think the question for NYXL is not how well they can do in the regular season, but how well they can do in the playoffs. So do you think they will do better, the same, or worse in the playoffs, Joe?
That's a good question. I think it's definitely going into season 2. This is definitely their season to lose. In the sense that they've got lots of expectations riding on them here for New York. But yeah, are they able to come out and pick up a more definite season 2 win? I think it's definitely possible. There's plenty of exposure, I think, now into season 1 that they're able to rely on in a field of so many rookie teams now. But they're definitely going to be able to match, I think, season 1. That's easy to say, but I think it definitely has the potential to be pretty close coming in to see if they're actually able to top anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna go same. I think they lose in the semifinals again. It's so hard for them to do better with so much more talent coming into the league, and after last year's disappointment and after lots of disappointments in playoff situations, it's hard to give these guys, especially with, I mean, the last time we saw them was in stage 4 in the playoffs, and just the meta was leaning towards something that NYXL wasn't particularly the best at. So I think they still got a very talented roster. I don't think they're going to win it all. We'll see who I think is going to win it all eventually, though. It's a little bit of a tease. We move on to another team. I gotta say, all 3 teams we're doing today, I think we're getting some good off-season grades in here, some good placements, honestly, because we got some good teams. Now we're going to our expansion team of the day. Over in the Pacific, Hangzhou Spark, the old pink and blue team. Of course, they didn't have any changes. They just had additions because they're a brand new team. But what do you think of their roster? What grade would you give it, Joe?
I think I'd have to go through. I haven't thought about based on the 8 new expansion teams we have and going through and ranking them. But I think it's definitely fair to say that this is one of the better ones of these new expansion teams that have been added. I know we were talking a little bit before the show about some of the other power rankings that we've seen people put out, and I know Hangzhou, I think, was like number 4. It reinforces end of season power ranking, he was really confident in this team. But I think that there's definitely some good reasons for that. And again, I like to reference the World Cup just because that's the most recent time we've seen lots of these expansion team players. But Gushui and I think also No Smite. No, he wasn't. He wasn't in a World Cup team. But Gushui obviously main tank for Team China in the World Cup, really had lots of success. Crystal was in there also, I believe. All of a sudden, I'm unsure of myself. But lots of really big names from Korean contenders in particular. We've got DPS duo Bazzi Godsby from X6, as well as Rhea and No Smite coming in alongside Gushui on the tank role. I mean, there's lots of really cool things built into this roster, in addition to whatever the coaching and the practice can do for this team. Like I said, I think it's one of the expansion teams that I'm the most confident in and I'm the most excited about, which definitely says something. And that you've got to love the pink and blue. That's built in. That's got to give you at least a grade or a half a grade bonus, I think. Yeah. So I mean, what more could Hangzhou have done? I mean, not much. They didn't try to go for some sort of gimmick, like Chengdu did. Sorry, Chengdu. Was it Chengdu that's got the all Chinese roster? I think it is. Yeah,
that's Chengdu. Yeah.
And they're I think they're just going for really good talent where they can see it. So yeah, I think I mean, I don't. It's another situation. I don't see much reason to not give them an A. Maybe I'm just a kind creator. I don't know, but we'll find out.
Yeah. I agree with you. I'll give them a B plus here. I agree that this is one of the expansion rosters that I'm most excited about. You can't not be excited about Gushui, like you're saying, in the World Cup. And I've talked about him before on the show, but I'm super excited about Godsby. I've been a big fan of Godsby. And overall, just I don't know. This expansion roster is impressive. They've got some X6 gaming guys. X6 has been fantastically successful in contenders, more in season 1 than season 2, and then you got some 7 guys. I mean, they were taken from X6 and 7, lots of numbers, and both those teams weren't as successful in season 2 contenders as season 1, but they definitely have the talent. They definitely have the talent there, and then getting Gushui is fantastic because after World Cup, he was definitely one of the most sought-out players. There's no doubt about that. I'm going to give him a good old B+. You couldn't have done much better, Hangzhou. You honestly couldn't have, but you did well, and I agree with Reinforce that they definitely could surprise some people. Who's going to be their standout player, Joe?
I mean, we sort of talked about that already. I'm really going to want to watch Gushui, as a main tank myself, but also, looking for him to match lots of the expectations that got put on him after the World Cup. It's just going to be really cool to watch that, because I think they're playing like Shanghai very first game of the, or very first, it's like the last game of the first night or something. But yeah, just to watch him take his place in there is gonna be cool.
Yeah, you can't not pick Gushui. I'll go Godsby just to differentiate. I love Godsby. I love his skill ever since Apex era. So he's been a guy to watch. He's finally in the big leagues. I'm gonna go with him on the DPS. Anticipated matchups for Hangzhou, the Spark, the pink and blue. Who you got?
I feel like I'm always one step ahead of our question list here, because I mean, Hangzhou Shanghai right there, right there at the beginning of the season. That's going to be the first match in which a Chinese team wins. Period. Yeah. I mean, that's notable right there. But yeah, other teams to look at. I mean, is it Um, I was gonna say, is it Guangzhou that has some of the other um, Team China Overwatch World Cup players? But no, I guess that's Chengdu that has some of those Yate Long and Late Young and Evil Tall and stuff are playing there in Chengdu, so that'll be cool. Um, Seeing some of those former teammates competing against each other. There's another response.
Yeah. Hangzhou, I mean, Vancouver with the pink and blue. I mean, you got lots of matchups. Any Chinese matchup, like you're saying, I want to see a Chinese roster make the playoffs, and it's looking like Hangzhou is that team, you know. So facing, I'm most forward to looking forward to them facing these Chinese teams. Um, yeah, as far as where they're gonna place, we've been doing like a 3 number placement sort of thing. Where do you think they're gonna be placing, Joe?
Hmm. So yeah, I mentioned that Reinforce had him like fourth over the entire 20 team, the
Yeah,
entire 20 team span, and I'm not sure I would be that confident. I think lots of my other predictions have been based, have been putting lots of weight on prior OWL experience, and I think that's definitely going to be a big factor for lots of these teams. Uh, that and it just makes sense logically that these new season 2 expansion teams are going to have a harder time, especially at the beginning of the season, really getting into the swing of things and getting accustomed to some of these expectations. And I think so as a result, it's going to be harder for the expansion teams. But like I said, I think they are definitely one of the better ones there, and certainly uh, I think it's fair to say going to be better than some of the existing rosters we looked at so far. So that puts them easily. Um, hmm, well, yeah, it's probably fair to say they'll be. Uh, I'll say like 10, 12 maybe, something like that.
yeah.
Which I
Hmm.
mean, I
I,
probably put like 6 teams in the 10-12 range so far. But eventually, we're gonna do a full power ranking for each of us, I'm sure. So
yeah. Hmm.
we'll work it
So
out there.
we'll actually get things straight, but we're sort of figuring out our feelings so far. We're getting there, you know.
Yeah.
It takes time to make a really good power rankings, and we're getting there. I agree with you. I'd have them around the same place. Honestly, I don't think I like that Reinforce is coming out there and being different and being like, no, this team's gonna be top 4. Like that's crazy to me. I'll put him a little bit higher than you did. I'll put him 8 to 10 range. I do like this roster a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if they barely miss out on playoffs though. They've got some talent, but you've got tons of inaugural season talent out there still. So if Hangzhou makes it, it might have to be a late run once they get used to playing on the big stage. So I don't think it's 4. I think it's about 8 to 10 range. They've got a good roster. I'm impressed by it. We'll see if I change my mind once we get to the real power rankings. But we have one more team to do this week. It's another Pacific team, and it's one that a lot of people are liking this team, the San Francisco Shock, with some people really like this team's off season. So Joe, is that an automatic A out of you? All this, specifically Mr. Stryker joining their team.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely what we're looking at. I think. I mean, talking about cutting some of the well, not the slack, I won't say, but some of the excesses that they had on the roster. People who only played like one day out of the entire season, like ITDQD, or only played one stage out of the entire year, like Doc and Nomi. Um, but but definitely pulling in people to really reinforce some of the things they're looking at. We're looking at Choi Yobin and Smurf on the main tanks, backed up by Super and Nevix. That's a really strong tank line for San Francisco, as well as again really deep DPS pool, like I mentioned in our discussion about New York Excelsior, with Rascal Baby, Base Striker, Sinatra, and Architect. Now, all really good in their own sort of niches, but to have that flexibility backed up by Moth and Sleepy, but also the addition of Violet from O2 in Korea. I think these are all really good moves that I'm not entirely sure, where some of the weaknesses of this roster be. I think probably if I had to pick a role out of three, would be support, but definitely there's no reason for us to for us not to be proven wrong. I think by this roster going into the early beginnings of season 2. Yeah, I'm definitely really excited. This is another A roster, I think, for me.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with you. They added some very talented players, but I'm gonna have to go B-ish, mainly because of how many DPS players they added. Now having 5, and they now have 12 total players on their roster, the biggest out of anyone in the league. The second highest is 10 for most, and now they're at 12. And we know the story of London and how big their roster was, and meshing 2 rosters together, and how that didn't really work for them, and how they just had to cut out the fat basically, and that arguably led them to a championship, actually just rating out who was good enough. And I think that's might be an issue San Francisco has right now. I mean, you can't not pick up Striker, even if you have 4 amazing DPS already. If Striker wants to come to your team, it's like, and Striker is their best DPS player now. So I can't blame them for doing that, but they're going to have to make another move at some point in the season to either get some more cap space or something going on here. Just trading away a player for some money, maybe, because one of these DPS players, probably Baby Bay, is going to get virtually no time on that stage. So I'm going to give it. I'll do B plus, because these people are very talented, very, very talented. So I'll give them B plus. San Francisco Shock, a pretty crazy off season for their team. Lots of new players, lots of new faces for a team that already was on very, very much on a hot streak at the end of the season. So people are looking to these guys huge. Now that you have tons of talented DPS players, you got to give the standout player to a DPS, right, Joe?
I mean, there's no reason that can't happen, but yeah, if I was going to try to pick something for San Francisco here, again, looking at their 12-man roster, it's going to have to be it might be somebody like yeah, we'll go DPS. Why not? It might be somebody like Sinatra, which is interesting. That that's probably not the pick we'd expect. Again, from this roster, talking about how dominant we're expecting a striker to be, but for Sinatra to find a spot, obviously, he was the DPS carry in different ways. For San Francisco in season 1, but so to be able to watch him not get replaced and find a way to contribute to this team like he had been doing for a really long time, that's going to be it's going to be important to watch him do that, and to see exactly how he's going to accomplish it either way. Sinatra is going to be good to watch.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I think Sinatra is going to be, despite Architect, Striker, Rascal, I think Sinatra is going to still be seeing significant playing time, just because of how flexible he is as a player.
He can play Reinhardt.
Yeah, exactly. And he's great at flexing. So, despite him having tons of DPS players against him, I still think he's going to be seeing some great playing time. But I gotta give it to Striker, my man. He's one of my favorite players from season 1. Loved watching him, and something I realized the other day: Striker reuniting with his old coach from Boston Uprising, Krusty.
It's true.
Yeah, I didn't think about that before, but a little bit of a reunion right there.
I imagine he'll like him better than Huck.
Yes, I do. I imagine that Striker did always like Krusty better than Huck and was sad when Krusty left. Um, a very unfortunate for Boston Uprising. We already talked about them, though. Um, yeah, I gotta give it to Striker. That guy is amazing. Anticipated matchups for the Shock.
Well, I don't know. I think this one is going to have to. I'm going to take this one by geography, actually. That with season one, San Francisco Shock was a fairly lower tier team in general. We didn't see tons of them going through, but again, the way the optimism we're having here going into season two, I want to see them and how they're able to play against their other California teams. Obviously, LA Valiant and LA Gliders are also going to be really good teams, coming into February. But I want to see how San Francisco is able to, step it up and come in and slide in. I think because I think they will, ideally be able to slide right in next to them.
Yeah, I agree. California, they've got some great teams, and that's why I'm here. Um, three fantastic teams. I wouldn't be surprised if all three made the playoffs, which is crazy. But I'm going to go, like I was mentioning earlier, the Boston matchup. They play them once this season. Striker, the big rematch. Krusty, another big rematch. I'm going San Francisco, Boston, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Striker play his best game against Boston. Honestly, he seems like the type of guy who likes revenge, and I expect that one to be a big 4-0 win for Shock. I'm excited for that. I guess that's not as exciting or anticipate. I'm anticipating that moment. I think a lot of people are after the things that have come out about Huck. Compared to season one. So where exactly did Shock finish again?
I want to say like
obviously
8th or 7th.
They didn't make playoffs. I think. Why is Liquipedia not loading their page for me? Yeah, I think you're about right. I think you're about right there. Ninth was what they finished in the regular season. Obviously, they didn't have playoffs because they did not make it. So if you translate ninth to this season, it's somewhere around. It's in the bottom half, somewhere around like 14th, 15th ish. Right in the middle of the bottom half. Do you think they do better or worse? The same than that. I feel like this one might be a little bit easy.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking at a better season for San Francisco than they had in season one. I mean, as far as the actual range, I think we're definitely thinking top 10. I think if I was going to go into more detail than that, I'd have to sit down and actually make a power ranking. But definitely top half of the field, I think is fair to say for this squad as we're making predictions. But yeah, it's just to be exciting. It's exciting to watch this change.
Yeah, I'm always excited to see a change and a rise in the rankings. I mean, San Francisco started. I feel like they would have had a much better season if they had Sinatra, if they had Super at the beginning of the season, because those two players brought them so much. And then also if they had Krusty at the beginning of the season. So they just had a lot of late additions to this roster, which was very unfortunate for them. In stage 3, they finished 5th at 6-4, and in stage 4 last season they went 5-5, which comparatively to stage 1 and stage 2, they went 3-7 in both of those stages. So once they added Sinatra and Super, they did a lot better, getting at least 500 or above in each stage. So the addition of Striker and a brand new season, I think it's obvious that they do better, and I completely agree with you. I'm probably going to have them in the top 10. All right. Anything else to talk about these three teams before we sign off, Joe?
I'm not sure I do, no. Other than Fusion University is seconds away from a 3-0 second win in the semifinals.
No. So that's most likely going to be happening. We're going to get the Philly Atlanta rematch that everybody wants on Sunday. So I guess we'll be talking about the results of that on next week's episode.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. Now they're not seconds away anymore. All they have to do is take the last third of Hanamura B in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. So
they can do it.
Yeah,
they can do that easy. It's gonna happen, guys.
We'll leave you on a cliffhanger. Now you have to go look up and see how the result of the match was.
Cliffhanger, I like it. This was episode number 20, the big 20 of On the Flank. As far as social media goes, you can follow our personal Twitters. Mine is at JWGeorgeIV. Joe's is at Kirkpatrick_Inc. That's INC. Our show has a Twitter account. It's at On the Flank Show. We also have an email, ontheflankshow@gmail.com. You can either tweet at us or you could send us an email if you have any topics you would like us to talk about on the show. Of course, you're listening to this in some way, but if you want to listen to it in a different way, you can go to ontheflank.podbean.com. You can go to my personal YouTube, which is linked on my Twitter account. It is John George. You can find us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts if you are an iPhone user. If you're an Android user, you can find us on Spotify or Google Play. Thank you guys for listening. We will check you guys out next week.
Yeah, I've had this contenders match on in the background. It's actually been really weird, or just exciting to watch. They had, particularly this Hanamura map. They had Snillo on Ashe. They had Ashe May on their first attack, or no, Fusion's first defense was Ashe May. And now Second Wind's defense. They've had a Torb. They've had a Bastion. They did Bastion Symmetra on first point, and then carried that into second for a little bit. Now they're on Torb. Anyway, it's just been exciting.
They have 14,000 viewers. Dang, this is the most I've seen on Contenders.
Yeah, well, it's just weird because at least for a while the Bastion Symmetra was working really well, just because it was so. They split them up so well. Like there was like 3 on each high ground or something. And they were able to teleport back and forth, but just throw Infusion for a loop.
Wow, that's awesome.
Anyway,
Sweet.
Good stuff. But yeah, that was a nice long show. That works.